Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the review and recap series for the Living Under Nazi Rule topic. We're carrying on by looking at the third theme in this topic, which is the changing lives of German people between 1933 and 39. In the previous two videos, we've looked at how Nazi policies impacted on the lives of women and how they also impacted on the lives of workers. In this lesson, we are looking at how the lives of young people in Nazi Germany were impacted by Nazi policies. As young people in Nazi Germany in the 1930s, much like today, spent the majority of their time in school, the Nazis quickly realised that they needed to control those who have the biggest influence on young people's lives in schools, which is teachers. So in 1933, politically unreliable teachers were sacked from their positions. Politically unreliable is a very purposely vague term because it could basically incorporate anybody, whether it was a political opponent, a religious opponent, or just somebody that they did not particularly trust. Jewish teachers were banned from teaching in non-Jewish schools, and a Nazi Teachers League was established, which was an organisation that teachers had to join effectively to be a teacher. And at these organisation meetings, they very strictly and sternly told the teachers what they could and could not teach. They also the Nazis also set up specialist schools to try and control the lives of young people. So they set up what was known as a Napler school, a military cadet school, which was run by the SS and the SA in a very military style way. And they also set up something called Adolf Hitler schools, which were run by leaders of the Hitler Youth. And the idea behind this is that it would create future leaders of the Nazi Party. However, neither of these schools are successful. There are only about 6,000 students in roughly 16 Napler schools, and there are only 10 Hitler schools, Adolf Hitler schools, by 1939. A reason that these were largely unsuccessful is because they were based on physical appearance. So you had to be, obviously, in the eyes of the Nazis, of an Aryan background and ethnicity, and it was nothing to do with academic ability. Within actual lessons, the Nazis, beyond just trying to control the teachers, tried to control the curriculum. So old textbooks from before the Nazi reign were thrown out, and teachers had to follow lessons that emphasized Nazi ideology. And this was sort of intertwined within every single lesson in different ways. For example, in mathematics lessons, examples might be used that were anti-Semitic or anti-disability. So there are examples of questions wherein students have to work out how much money the German government spends on keeping people with disabilities alive. And this is a very subtle way of indoctrinating the German children in the 1930s to make them think in a pro-Nazi way. In other examples, in other subjects, for example, in biology, they would study the history of the Aryan race to try and prove, in inverted commas, its genetic superiority. And PE was also heavily emphasised. It was 15% of a boy's timetables, and that's largely because the Nazis wanted a young and fit generation who would be capable of fighting a war. Outside of school then, the Nazis also tried to control the leisure time of young people. So they set up youth organisations. The Hitler Youth was set up in the late 1920s, and it had a section for girls, a section for boys, a section for juniors and seniors as well. In 1936, it became compulsory as a child in Germany to join whatever relevant Hitler Youth organisation you needed to. And it became compulsory to attend meetings in 1939. In 1936 as well, the Nazis closed down all of the youth groups, especially church youth groups. So the Hitler Youth organisations became the only way of accessing facilities in a community. So lots of people joined because they had no other way of accessing things in the community. What kind of activities did they do in these Hitler Youth organisations? Well, the boys' version was called the Hitler Jugend, Hitler Youth, and its members sang songs, they read Nazi books, they paraded. And they also focused the boys on lots of military preparation. For example, they had lessons in Morse code reading. They had rifle practice, how to throw grenades, how to set up camps. All of this was preparing boys for a life in the military. The female version of the Hitler Youth was called the League of German Maidens, and this very much focused on encouraging women to live very traditional and conservative lives, in line with what the Nazis expected of older women in Germany. So the League of German Maidens focused on domestic duties, how to cook, how to clean, how to be a good domestic housewife. But both of these groups, the Hitler Youth and the League of German Maidens, were very popular with the working class, and that's largely due to the fact that they would go on excursions and holidays that would have been otherwise not available to them. Okay, so for the working class in Germany, the Hitler Youth and the League of German Maidens were very exciting groups that you could be a part of that would offer you opportunities that would otherwise be unavailable. However, not all people were convinced by these Hitler Youth groups. By 1939, even though it is compulsory to attend all meetings and be a member of a Hitler Youth group, only 82% of children were in either the League of German Maidens, which is the BDM, or the HJ, which is the Hitler Youth. So even though it's compulsory, only 82% are. Lots of young people were bored by the meetings of the Hitler Youth. They were bored by all of the political talk that they didn't really understand or care about. And some didn't like the physical activities. On top of that, for some children, parents were worried about indoctrination and denunciation. Some parents were worried that their children were going to be brainwashed by the Nazis, which of course is exactly why the Nazis set up these youth groups. And they were also worried that if they became fanatical about the Nazis, their children might denounce them or inform on them to the Gestapo or the SS. So there was a fear almost that their children could become brainwashed. Lots of parents were also anti-Nazi, so they didn't want their children being exposed to Nazi propaganda. Other factors also remained very important in determining whether a child joined the Hitler Youth. For example, religious influences. If a child came from a very religious family and they were non-Nazi and disagreed with their ideology, then there was a very good chance that that child themselves would be non-Nazi and would not want to join the Hitler Youth organizations. So that's a summary of how the lives of young people in Nazi Germany were influenced. Lots of it focuses, unsurprisingly, on education, but also their leisure time was organised in a certain way as well to try and indoctrinate and brainwash the youth of Germany. That just about wraps up this video. Thank you very much for watching. As always, what I have got is a series of questions that I'm about to flash up on the board. There we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What I would like you to do is pause the video here for me, and then I would like you to have a go at answering these on a piece of paper. In a couple of seconds' time, I'm going to reveal the answers to these. So please pause the video here. And the answers. Just check what you've got right, and then you can add anything in that you needed to go over again. Thank you very much for watching, and I will speak to you in the next video.